there's no big mindset shift where you can just switch your fingers. You have to feel how the people on the receiving side feel. It's my favorite part of the job. When someone says what you just said, which is, I forgot why I'm in this business. And
Yeah.
like, talk a lot about purpose and fulfilling a promise, but when you see it, the good and the bad, that just, connects the dots and it inspires change. Hi, I'm Josh Levine. I'm the founder and CEO of Cake and Arrow, and this is the future of insurance.
Josh, it's great to sit down with you. I have had quite a bit of opportunity to grow from your work, and I'm excited to share a bit about what you all do at Cake and Arrow with this audience and with the world. It's been cool for me to get myself and for my team to get some unlock, some possibility, some future movement, thanks to the work that you guys all do. So I'm thankful to you in the first place for all that and for coming on here. So welcome to the show.
Good to finally be here.
So tell us a little bit about, like, people are like, Cake and Arrow, like, what is it, like a Valentine's Day? Can you shoot arrows? Like, what is the name? What do you guys do? And who the heck are you? Like, where did this all come from?
Sure. So I'm Josh Levine. I'm the founder and CEO at Cake and Arrow. So Cake and Arrow, we're a UX design and product innovation firm, and we focus exclusively on the insurance industry. So we'll partner with carriers, distributors, service providers to uncover new opportunities, which we do through behavioral research. And then from there, we'll craft strategies or design digital experiences that are rooted in real human needs. That's where the cake comes from, right? It's the kind of represents the emotional, the user research, the kind of the art aspect, whereas Arrow is more the direct, the results, the conversion, the insights, the getting things done. Those are kind of the dichotomy of what our names are. So for us, projects range from everything from a broker or agent portal to enterprise software, DTC apps, whatever it might be, websites, policyholder experiences. But ultimately, our mission is to leverage design and human-centered mindsets to help the insurance industry make buying, selling, servicing insurance better for everyone across the whole value chain. And me, I'm a designer by trade, which is why I'm the guy that was able to, and that logo behind you, recognize the angle
saw the slope
in your logo, right?
Yes,
and I say word like ascenders and logotype and all that. So well done by you all the way. But yeah, so I've spent the past 25 years practicing human-centered design and digital product strategy. And I know most people, you and I have discussed this, don't really associate a designer with the insurance industry. But to be honest, that's the exact thing that drew me to it. I always tell people, it's like, if you want to design really complex problems with really good people, this is the place. There's just so much opportunity to leverage the designer mindset, which I've worked on with you, and really create meaningful relationships between insurers and the people that they serve.
Yeah. Josh, I'm not gonna put the industry on blast, but I'm gonna call out what I think is our issue. Right. We have a lot of really smart people, and I think we know that. Folks on the outside maybe call us dinosaurs, or, early days of insurtech, it's like these idiots in insurance, they don't know anything, they can't get out of their own way. They're old school, they're fool, like all these negative things. Actually, what I've seen is we have a lot of incredibly smart people, really capable people. Where I think we've gone wrong is the framing that we all operate in, the context, the kind of tunnel vision that, over the generations in this industry, we've sort of been forced down in this very iterative path. Like, you create a product, you file it, and then you iterate it every year with rate change and endorsements and whatever. And you get in this iterative mindset. And I think that sort of defined the industry. And when you and I first met, you guys were running a session within this event that Silicon Valley Insurance Accelerator was hosting. It was my last thing pre-COVID. Like, that was it. And then I think 2 weeks later, everyone was hiding inside. I don't know. It was like an hour and a half or 2 hours. I don't remember how long it was, but you had this room full of brilliant people who honestly were like giggly and came alive. And the idea, I don't remember any of them now, but the ideas we came up with at the table that I was working at, I was like, this is some good stuff. And it was just, you just kind of opened us up with a different way of thinking about the task at hand or the problem at hand or the opportunity at hand. And it was like instantly unlock things. And that was just, an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it was. Imagine if. And so that's what's gotten me thinking. And why I wanted you here today is I do think we're super capable. I do think we're super intelligent. I do think we have amazing assets at our disposal. And I think, I mean, people are hearing your background and being like, what does that have to do with insurance? Like you said, like, why would that be an insurance? But I think that's it, is the framing, the context, the kind of trained mindset we've gotten into is where our limitation is. It's not that we're actually not smart enough to do it. So I mean, this is what you live with. So what is your take on where that sense of like insurance doesn't change, it's stuck, we're an old industry, we're not dynamic. Like, what do you think is holding us back? And then obviously I want to give people some hope. Is like, and what do we do about it? But let's focus on what you see as some of the constraints.
Yeah, I mean, one of the there's several. I'll try to stick it to a few, but one of the biggest is this over reliance in the industry on competitive intelligence, and I do think the industry is wired to place almost all value on the business point of view, right? And knowing what everyone else is doing. What do 8 out of 10 CEOs think?
Yeah.
What does 70% of the PNC carriers prioritize for 2024? There's that continuous, and everyone has it, that continuous desire to know what the industry sees as an emerging trend or what the latest technology to invest in. But that type of thinking, it's not, it's logic. It's not going to move us forward. It's going to
Yeah.
breed more of the same. And look, if there's one thing I've learned is that the insurance industry is a very insider industry. And I don't think enough weight is given to outside perspective, and that holds us back. I mean, I
Yeah.
see strategies and plans that are informed by competitive intelligence, right? And I think the opportunity to differentiate and so to make tangible progress is also by integrating the customer intelligence part. It's like I always say, the business insights and the competitive intelligence is great at telling you where you are,
Yeah.
but understanding the customer intelligence and the customer insight, that's going to tell you where you need to go, and
Mm.
to deliver, it's logic. To deliver meaningful value to customers, you got to know what they value. So yeah, I mean, I think the industry is amazing at keeping its, more than any other, keeping its pulse on what's happening on the inside.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of value in that. I'm not downplaying that
Yeah.
at all. But I'd love to see insurance companies apply that same exact rigor to understanding the customer on an ongoing basis, because the business trends are changing. You see this in your podcasts and the conversations. I mean, they're changing fast, but it's also vital to recognize that the customer expectations are changing even faster. And I would argue that these shifting customer expectations are what's driving the business trends to begin with. So yeah, I mean, I think creating a balance of competitive and customer
Yeah.
intelligence will, to me, at the end of the day, allows you to focus on the trends that will actually matter, not the
Yeah.
one that the industry thinks will matter.
I'm just picturing two people like on opposite sides of like two mountains facing each other. They've got binoculars and they're just looking at each other. And it's like, look at what they're doing. We need to do that. And then the other side's doing the same thing. It's like, well, you're just doing what each other's doing. There's no external influence. You might tweak a little bit as you take in what you're observing and think of a different way, or maybe you're interpreting it differently, but it's super limiting because you're not catching like, what are all the other things going on in your environment? So
Yeah.
it's an echo chamber, right? We're just like pointing at each other. And so it's the same ideas bouncing around the same places.
Yeah, pointing at each other and making assumptions. I mean, it's a great analogy you just brought up. I mean, same thing, two people on a mountain. Picture even, what we hear about, boomers and millennials. And
Yeah.
it's just like there's a perception of one another, and it's the same, it's the same thing. And
Yeah.
I mean, to me, another big one that I've observed, and again, I consider myself I'm an outsider insider, right? Like I've been in the industry long enough that I know enough to be dangerous, but I'm I'm an art school graduate. I come from a
Yeah.
different DNA, and the thing I observe is this the tendency to jump right into solution mode.
Yeah.
And this goes back to what you were saying earlier of we're really good at what we do. We're experts, and I think as humans, we're hardwired to solve challenges, right? And like we naturally talking to one another, we're going to jump right to solutions and start talking about what are the next steps. But
Yes.
insurance, what I've seen, and we know this, the impact of of doing that gets significantly amplified because these ideas, these solutions will rapidly turn into or snowball into resource and budget intensive initiatives that take many years to execute.
Yeah.
Uh, it's like I can think of just a couple of examples that I've seen, right? Like an insurer we need to increase renewal rates, right? So immediate response is that, okay, they will say we need better email reminders. So they invest in new marketing and email technology and infrastructure. Another we see, obviously, back to the younger generation as we need to appeal to younger customers. So
Yeah.
immediate solution is always, well, then we need to digitize the entire journey and get some bots in there because the common assumption is that the younger generation prefers purely digital and they don't want to talk to humans. But like in both of those cases, if you dig deeper
Yeah.
into the root issue, you might see in the case of renewal rates, the issue might lie in a customer service issue or a complex payment issue or maybe it's the perceived value of the policy
Yeah.
itself. Younger generation, what we were just talking about, right? Perhaps it's the root issue is the product, what we've seen, the product just not being relevant to them. They're not seeing the value being aligned with the pricing.
Yeah.
And it isn't just, of course, they do prefer digital, but it isn't just that. It could be education, it could be trust. There's all these things that I don't have the answer for either. You have to dig under, depend on your product, and really get to know. And that's the human-centered mindset. That's the
Yeah.
human approach of holding off from jumping into these types of solutions, and instead ensure that we have a solid grasp and understanding of the problem that we need to solve, because we have to shift from is is uh, is obvious, right? And
Yeah.
instead, to your point, right, reframe the problem a bit.
Yeah.
It's when you're on the inside and you're an expert in your business, the problem just seems so clear and so obvious to you, right?
Yeah.
Like, and truth is, it's just not the same as the problem that agents or customers want to solve. So
Yeah.
yeah, you really want to dismantle. That's what we work with you on, right? You want to dismantle assumptions about solutions and really start considering why before you start getting into the what.
Yeah.
Uh, and you do that by observing and speaking to the humans, your
Yeah.
design, the people on the front lines, and you do that by shifting the conversation from this is how we've done it, this is how we should do it, to how might we approach this? And you
My
smile.
favorite phrase now.
Oh, and you use it, and I've
Yeah.
heard you speak at conferences and use that and nothing, and it's true. And it's a muscle, like these
Yeah.
concepts, I'm thinking, all these words, they're great terms, but at the end of the day, it's a muscle that you need to build because it needs to happen on an ongoing basis. I
Yeah.
see it with you. You've used it and you smile when you do it. And I know we
Yeah.
get a kick out of it, but the truth is that that is a good example
Yeah.
of different way of thinking taking traction. And it's just I actually have a pretty good story, like to make this concrete.
Yeah.
Very recently, maybe the past year or so, I was chatting to a senior executive from a large PNC carrier, and she's telling me about their foray into commercial fleet telematics, right? And to as a way to drive down loss costs. And they found a technology they liked. They spent think maybe a little more, 2 years implementing it. They worked through the internal processes. They go to market, created the marketing materials, and they launched it, and nothing happened, right? And like, start to ask why. And then they talk to people. You know, agents just simply weren't comfortable selling or promoting this technology that they didn't fully understand. They didn't have time to learn about it. The fleet managers just, you know, they weren't enthusiastic about it. And the simple one of it, it just created a hassle for drivers. They simply didn't want to download an app on their personal phone for work. Um,
Yeah.
the business case was sound. It's logical, right? You want to do these things in order to get a certain business objective, and the solution and technology seemed so obvious at the time. But to me, it's just like the perfect example of the top down, inside out decisions, the impact it can have on product design, development, budget, spends. And you know, you want your product and your service and your experience, like the only way it's going to be successful is if the people who are going to use it actually want to use it, right? They have to.
Yeah. Well, Josh, I want to pick into that a little bit more with you. In particular, one of the things you and I have talked about is this industry kind of habit of focusing on output over outcome, which is I think what you're getting is like we have to digitize or we have to, you know, come out with an app or we have to do this one thing that we've seen through our lens. Um, when we're jumping into solution mode, we got to come up with a solution. We got to get it out there without really thinking through what is it we're trying to solve for. And when you mentioned the phrase like how might we, that's
Yeah.
something my team got from you, you and your team. And one of the counter to how might we is what I think we normally do is we see something, we're trying to solve for it. And through the process of building that solution, we face all these moments of we can't because, which to me is like that's the antithesis of how might we. So we started with a general understanding of like this is where there's pain that we need to solve for, but in getting to we have to have a solution, we frame the solution by all the constraints and all the impossibilities that we presume on it. And I find a lot of the time they are sacred cows, folklore, and you know people are like, well, you know, we have to do this thing in this way because of X. And
Mhm.
I mean I saw that at PLRB as an example when we were digitizing our in-person continuing education credit tracking and reporting so we can get people their CE credits with the states. I was like, well, you know, let's use our app for that. It's there in the app. We should be doing it that way instead of people were filling out paper forms and getting signatures from the instructor, and then we'd have to rewrite everything and like read their chicken scratch. And I mean, for literally like we had 3,500 people at our claims conference last year. Can you imagine times 112 classes? How many like rewriting of everything?
Yep.
But one of the we can't because moments was, well, the states require the paper. And so, do they? What do we do with the paper? Do we send it to the states? No, we have to keep it in how they require that we hold on to it. Do they? Do
Yep.
we fly it home to our offices after the conferences in Orlando last year? Like, do we fly it back to Chicago? No. Like, so what? Why is there this constraint that we're saying exists when it doesn't? Let's verify that it doesn't. But we've framed our world of possibilities and the answer we're going to put out by this thing that isn't true that might have been 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago. But we live with all these we can't because that then drive us to like, we put out an answer and why isn't anybody using it? Well, because you built something that frankly is horrible, doesn't meet their actual need, has all these constraints and twists because your mindset was wrong through the whole process. Is that, I mean, is that how you're seeing it? Or do you think it's a different issue that's leading us to prioritize like just get things out versus, well, what are we actually trying to solve for? And did we even solve for that?
Yeah. I mean, like there is understanding the problem and then there's executing right on the solution once you do understand the problem, to your point, right? And there's this concept of I like to say de-risking innovation, right? Or even execution. And this is where you get into, you mentioned earlier, the outputs versus outcomes, is then a commitment is made to do a thing, build a thing. But they work on, you know, they put these 1 year, 2 year roadmaps in place, and then
Yeah.
it's hands down build, right? And maybe the initial intent is sound, right? But the things that happen when it takes 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, the life goes on, right?
Yeah.
And expectations change a lot in that window. And that's where, again, to your point, like to me, the emphasis on it's a huge thing holding us back. Delivering outputs rather than working towards outcomes it's a big inherent issue I see outside just what you were talking about. But like project delivery teams, and we work with plenty of them, they measure progress by the number of features they roll out.
Yeah.
And there's little focus on the consequences of those features, right? The
Yeah.
outcomes that they generate. And if you think about that with regard to designing a new policyholder experience or an agent experience, when outputs are the primary metric, critical things over time, like user feedback or UI improvements, everyone has a story. Yep, we'll throw it on the roadmap. We'll deal with
Yeah.
it in
Yeah.
18 months, and they never get dealt with. And so you have teams spending many months executing on work and functionality that potentially no longer meet the needs of the people that
Yeah.
we're designing for, right? That set it and forget it, and boom, we'll figure it out when it's live in 2 years. It has huge results of technical debt, design
Yeah.
debt. At the end of the day, people, whether you're an agent, you're a customer, you're an employee, like they don't care. They don't place value on the number of features you give them. I've seen it over and over and over. All they care about is the tangible value they see.
Yeah.
Right? They want to feel the experience when they interact with the product or service. So
Yeah.
to me,
Can, I won't put you on the spot about where this is all heading.
yeah, for sure.
Because I think it is tough. It is tough for us to change. These are ingrained habits in us. But I've also seen people engage differently. I've talked about, insurance companies that have done, like, I've talked about the State Comp Fund of California, and their work with getting everyone design thinking training and what they call it like experience by design, but like how that start to unlock different ideation, approach to problems, et cetera. I've seen this be possible even in our industry. I know you've done that. I'm curious if looking forward, do you have hope for our industry? Do you think we're making progress in the right direction? Do you think we're still kind of at the early stuck in the mud phase? Like, where are we? And do you think it's possible for us to evolve the way that we need to, or what do we need to do to make that possible?
Yeah, I mean, without question, the intent to innovate and the willingness to invest is absolutely there, more so than many other industries. It's the execution.
Yeah.
It's I think we have to stop confusing investing in technology with true innovation, right?
Yeah.
Like back to that earlier point, the tendency, right, to jump in and just start with technology, it causes us to overlook the needs of real people, especially today, with real problems that need to be solved. And I do think that's a big reason why, even with the investment, with the intent, all positive intent, that we're still seeing this expanding gap between customer expectations and insurers' ability to meet them.
Yeah.
And it just breeds so much opportunity. So like looking forward, again, I sit in a lot of these sessions and especially doing research on the front lines, both with our own research and in client projects. I'd love to see, insurers designing their products and experiences to provide even more support, more emotional support
Yeah.
to customers. And it's a huge opportunity, and it's doable, but beyond providing value of filling claims, because we see in our research constantly people want more than just filling out, making it easy to fill claims. We see it, we've seen it recently, that they want to feel seen and they want to feel whole. Even I think I was telling you a story the other day of like a recent worker comp initiatives, and we're doing policyholder research, and we're talking to somebody, a policyholder, gentleman who runs risk management for a construction company, and he was just explaining to our team how he felt this huge weight of keeping his workers safe,
Yeah.
He actually compared it to being an army general, right? And how an army general might feel, like life and death. Like that's the kind of anxiety. And the way he was talking about how this insurance company helped him, not filled the claim, but helped him. Like all of a sudden, I heard, like, I'm like, oh, I'm proud to be working with this company.
Yeah.
Like, that was the connection. It gave me the chills. And I get to see this a lot.
Yeah.
My team gets to see this a lot. And we try really hard to infuse the world with these insights. But at the end of the day, like the more we can, and that's our mission, right? Connect carriers with the way people are really feeling, not the way they think they're feeling. Damn right, there's a lot of hope.
Yeah.
And acting on that, it's hard out there right now. It's just like we say, all the lovely jingles and the
Yeah.
platitudes, right? It doesn't reflect most people's reality, and you got to understand that reality. And then it's we're gonna do it. We're gonna hit it. What's most important is that the intent is there more so than it was ever. It's tweaking that execution and focusing on stuff that matters.
Well, I will say, getting to have worked with you and your team, it is, I think we got the chills too. Like, it is an unlock. It is really invigorating, and the lift that gives an organization, because the intent's there. Because then people actually, like, they feel the energy aligned with what they wish they were doing or what they had hoped would be the outcome. So it is a really cool, I think, a cool moment for the industry, because the intent, I believe, is so high. Our willingness to invest is high. We just may not be putting the dollars in the right places, or misunderstanding how to actually execute that investment for the right outcome. I don't usually ask people, like, and where can folks find out more about what you're doing, but this is one where I'm going to ask you that. I want you to share, like, where can they get the research you do, connect with you guys, because these are the types of unlocks this industry needs. There's too much on the line. We spend a lot of money on these things to less effect than we wish they would have. So I want people engaging in this more. So you do put out a lot of research. You do try to help with the thinking of the industry beyond whether someone hires you or not. So where can people find, the research reports and engage with Cake and Arrow?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. Go into our website and just head right to the insight section. In there, you will find we try to do proprietary report once, 2 to 3 a year.
Yeah.
What we do is we're picking topics that are important to us as insurance buyers, right? Not just designers or part of the industry. And it works, right? And like focusing on the impact, not the climate's having on the business of insurance, but people reacting to that. How do people see insurance fitting into their personal finances, or small business owners, how they're feeling, and millennials? Yes, and we're big on advocating for how people feel out there, and that's what I want people to get from these reports and this research we do. So go there, download them. They're free. It's our way of giving back to an industry that's been really good to us. And hopefully our goal is that they inspire, some new thinking, like we did with you and others, and that triggers kind of a little more of a culture movement, because it's got to be, there's no big mindset shift where you can just switch your fingers. You have to feel how the people on the receiving side feel. It's my favorite part of the job. Is when someone says what you just said, which is, I forgot why I'm in this business.
Yeah.
I talk a lot about purpose and fulfilling a promise, but when you see it, the good and the bad, that just, connects the dots, and it inspires change.
Oh, that's awesome. I will link to a bunch of your reports and to your site in the show notes if people are wondering. Easy way to get there, but cakeandarrow.com. Follow you guys on LinkedIn also. I'll put
hit me up,
notes.
Josh, on LinkedIn. Come find me, and I can, as you can see, I could talk about this stuff for a really long time. You probably want to keep this thing limited, but I'm down to talk and riff on this stuff with anyone.
That's awesome.
And,
well, a huge thank you, not just to you, but I've gotten to know quite a few folks on your team, seen you guys in action, seen some of your client work as well. And yes, we are also clients. You guys have helped us and will in a few more months. I'm excited for that session as well. But Josh, can't thank you enough for being here for this, but for the industry too. We don't usually get people like you caring about our industry, but there's a definite upside. So thank you for what you all have been doing for us.
Appreciate that. Thank you for having me, Brian.
Thank you so much to Josh and really to the whole team at Cake and Arrow. For obviously Josh for sitting down for this, but the work that they're doing it's directly helped me and my organization, but I've seen it helping others in the industry. And I mentioned the SVIA event. They've done events with InsurTech New York and others, and it's just really cool seeing people, us in the industry kind of come alive and I think unlock our great capabilities and intelligence and deep knowledge and care for what we're doing. We just need some help in how to navigate pulling that out and freeing it up a bit and having more how might we moments than we can't because moments. Josh is he's very humble about it, but I owe him a great deal of gratitude and thanks for what he has enabled for me, for those around me, and I'm just excited for what that means for the industry, and that's why I had to bring this one to you. So hopefully, give you some thoughts, give you some things to dig into and get curious about. I will put links to Cake and Arrow and some of their research reports. Dig into them. It's interesting stuff. I found that they come out with these themes a little bit before we as an industry really start to dig into them. You mentioned millennials, generational stuff, ESG, differences in the workplace and all kinds of stuff. Really interesting. You should check them out. And if it sparks your fancy, if it gets you thinking, reach out to the team at Cake and Arrow. They've got a lot of great thoughts and they're all insurance all the time. So they get it, which is really cool. All right. I will leave it there. I hope to see you back next time. And how might we push our industry forward? Thanks, everyone.